that was a tier 15 map with a few. Well, actually, I think it was like, yeah, all 3 tablets, all rare. It was pretty juiced up with some of this. Not as juiced up as the content could be, of course, but I hope that it shows that this build is kind of like pretty easy to put together. I'm playing SSF, so if you're playing trade, it should be a lot easier and just a lot stronger, especially on bosses. I haven't really leveled up the Atlas passives that make the map boss more difficult. I don't think I would have any trouble like putting them up to max, but it's just mostly because of my gear right now. It's really bad. So my weapon is literally just a 2-stat weapon. I don't have the need for penetrate, and it doesn't really have any suffixes. I kind of ruined this weapon by accident. Ideally, you want the siege crossbow as well, so I'm just waiting to get a base that I can craft on. But if you're playing on trade, you should be able to get a weapon with this kind of damage, and then some plus projectiles, and either attack speed or onslaught pretty easily. I kinda put this build together by accident, just because I found out that while trying to make a Queen of the Forest build, the last line that says other modifiers to movement speed except for sprinting do not apply is kind of bugged. So if I take off my Shankgonnes, which, okay, 2 seconds. If I take off my Shankgonnes, you will notice that as soon as I start sprinting, I'll sprint for like a second, and then I'll just move at the regular speed. I'm not sure if this is a bug or if that's intended. If it is intended, then the wording on the Queen of the Forest needs to change, because it clearly says that the movement speed from sprinting does apply. I've been looking through like the forums and so on, and it seems like this has been bugged for quite a while. So I'm not quite confident that it's something that it will bug fix within this patch. Which is why I thought that maybe using something like Shankgonnes could be nice, because you kind of just offset the downside of you cannot spring by the fact that you don't really have a use for sprinting anyways when you're using Queen of the Forest. So the way that the dashing ability from Shankgonne works is that it scales off of movement speed. The more movement speed you have, the faster and the longer you can dash. You can see it starts getting pretty fast, and it's a really good synergy with grenade builds. Right now I am just sitting on my hideout only at 12,000 evasion, and I'm already almost movement speed. 45 to be specific. You can get this a lot higher on trade. Right now I have some scuffed gear. I'm using armor gloves that aren't really optimal. We using armor because of the node that we have here that gives us evasion per item armor that we have on gloves. That also synergizes really well with Sorcery Ward. You can see that I have a shit ton of it, despite not having a lot of evasion rating at the moment. My helmet is also pretty bad. Ideally you want a full evasion helmet on this. And my amulet is also really bad. So currently I am only using it for spirit. You don't really care about the life. You're already getting some stance threshold and so on just passively. If you're really struggling with that, you can either get this node that gives you some ailment threshold, or you can get this node that gives you some stun threshold, depending on the race that you have. And you already get some passively by passing through strong shin through here. So it's not really great gear that I have on currently. Even though spirit is really hard to get on an amulet, I don't really need that much spirit actually. Ideally for the amulet, you would want, if you're playing on trade, you can probably pull this off easier, but you actually want like a solid amulet, and then you want 50 spirit. That way you will be able to get 60 spirit. You might have to divine it. But yeah, as long as you have 60 spirit, you can run an extra aura beside these two. Right now I'm just using the extra spirit I have to get a little less ignite duration, because that part's really annoying about the build. Both a benefit and a downside of Sorcery Ward is that it doesn't actually trigger from stuff like ignite and poison. Any sort of dot, it just does not trigger. You can also read it here, but I completely missed that part when I originally looked over it. That's both good because it allows you to recharge it very much easily during mapping situations where the ignites and so on aren't really that hurtful towards you. It's also a downside because it does mean that, well, sometimes you just get a very big ignite or a very big bleed, and then you will just immediately see your life going from 100 to 0. As long as you build for it properly, I don't really think it's a problem. I mean, I haven't really struggled against it. You just need to be careful when you're running ultimatum and stuff. You can run some mods that make ignite and so on last longer, and then it can become kind of a problem. But during normal mapping, it's not really something that you notice that much. Especially also because if you're playing with Shankgonnes, you will notice that every time you leap, you get like this consecrated ground effect. And it gives you, I believe, 5 flat percentage life regen. Which is usually, yeah, I think it's 5% life. That's usually enough to just offset whatever dot you have on you. Especially if your resistance are okay. I am only at the moment level 86. This is mostly, I will say, a mapping like setup. If you really want, you don't have to run Queen of the Forest, but I think at that point you probably don't want to run Shankgonnes on a Witchhunter, because you really don't have a lot of access to movement speed through the tree, and you don't get any movement speed from Shankgonnes. It feels really bad without it. I've seen some people running on Titan, which is where I got the original idea for using the boots. I've also seen some people run it on Pathfinder. I think that could work pretty well, especially with where you start going through increased movement speed. But yeah, I mean, the build should boss pretty good as well, especially because you can insta-trigger all the cluster grenades and the explosive grenades. Right now I was pretty lucky and I got a Regalis float, but you don't actually need this. We're mostly using from explosive grenade for mapping at the moment. Most of the damage comes from cluster grenade when you get them all piled up, especially in a big boss with a big radius. They will just get instantly deleted as soon as the cluster grenades start popping off, and you can see something on free link. If you don't have the money or haven't found a Regalis float for the explosive grenade, you can quite literally just put a fire penetration on it, and it shouldn't really be that big of a difference. This is just nice for mapping. Because of that, I'm also just using short fuse. It does a lot less damage, but it just makes it so that they instantly pop. And I don't know, the quality of life for me has been pretty good on that. We generally while mapping, you'll just alternate between flash grenade and then explosive grenade. You can see how quickly they explode. You don't even have to pop your boots to explode immediately, which is a very nice quality of life, because then that means that you can save your Shankgonne jumps for either when you are traveling or when you want to pop cluster grenades really quickly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if this will remain a tech later on, if they eventually do bug fix the Queen of the Forest. I imagine this not being so great, but for the moment I think it has been working pretty fine as a way to offset the you cannot sprint downside from Shankgonne, and then coupling it together with Queen of the Forest. You should be able to get to, I believe the amount of evasion rating that you need to have to get the maximum effect of Queen of the Forest is something like 30,000. Right now I am only at 12,057. Again, I don't really have optimal gear. I'm playing in SSF. Once you get an amulet with increased evasion rating and global defenses, as well as getting some proper flat rolls of evasion on your rings. I only have one of them with flat evasion roll actually, so this can be a lot better, and the gloves as well being a lot better if you get it on the best base and get some actual proper rolls on your armor rolls. I mean, all in all, it should be pretty easy to get the effect capped out. I don't think it will be easy to get it capped out like always, but with Wind Dancer up and some of the conditional buffs like Backup Plan, which gives you evasion rating if you've been hit recently and so on, it should be pretty easy to get it running up in trade. And I am actually quite sure that I will eventually be able to get it close to getting maxed out in SSF. I just need to get upgraded my gear. So yeah, this was just proof of concept more than anything. I've been testing around different builds and so on. Not really much to do in the end game, I suppose, because you can just very easily delete all the max tier bosses. Something that I also find out that's really nice about Witchhunter with Sorcery Ward is that there's a lot of these nodes that just incidentally give you a lot of armor. Let me see if I can find it. So you get a lot of effects armor from your evasion, from this node, and then this node allows you to run armor, and so on. I think mathematically you would get more evasion if you just pathed up to the ranger side, but I don't think you would be able to get the amount of Sorcery Ward high as easily as. Yeah, I'll probably make an update on this once I have gotten my gear set up. Again, this is all scuff. You can also, by the way, I forgot, you can replace the belt with whatever you want. I am quite literally just using this to fill in resistances and nothing else at the moment. Yep, that has been it. I hope you have a nice day.